This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 9th of May 2019, and I am 2J.
I am 2M.
And I am Miss K, your host. Again, in case you missed it, this is Winning Headlines. Let's take a look at today's headlines. The Star, broke UONKU hold 4 billion shillings of staff cash. Daily Nation, the battle to save Judge Ndongo. And The Standard, Uhuru RUTO MPs fight the neutrals.
Yes.
I say let's start with the Nation.
Daily Nation, battle to save Judge Ndongo.
I think even just visually, this is a really powerful headline.
It is.
I do like a picture of her.
Great choice. I think the headline is just short, succinct, to the point. Yeah, I like it.
Would you like to give us context to
These guys were locked up in not JSC.
these guys?
JSC was locked up in, I think, in a crisis meeting yesterday.
Yes.
And the debate was whether to save Justice Ndongo or not.
To set up the tribunal.
To set up the tribunal. And I'm going to say this because I said it before. President Uhuru Kenyatta is being revisited because he had said he's going to revisit the judiciary.
How the tables have turned.
Yes, the tables have turned. And the reason I'm saying that is this. The 3 judges that are being questioned and targeted by the JSC, all right, by that cabal, are the people that are the judges that had a dissenting opinion during the Supreme Court ruling of the 2017 election.
But also the questions that are raised in this article are valid. Justice Joaquin Ndongo did not appear before the JSC because she felt that the matter was already finished or completed. Complaint had been placed against her, and the complainant had taken down their complaint. Now, if I've taken down my complaint, what do I need to see you for again? So again, it begs the question: why are you saving her? What are you saving her from? Because
the complaint no longer exists.
The complaint no longer exists unless you're trying to imply there's another thing that you're trying to save her from, or that she's done, and that you'd like her punished.
Let me ask a question, because the JSC is like a committee. Why are people of questionable repute questioning those that they think are of questionable repute?
I don't think we can ascribe fault to anybody within the JSC, but we can say that it is an interesting headline. I like the headline, and I think we can use our criteria. We have a 3-part criteria that we use to break down the headlines for you. We ask ourselves 3 questions. Is this headline topical or is it speculative? Is it repetitive or is it groundbreaking? Groundbreaking. And then finally, is it thoughtful or just plain lazy?
Most definitely thoughtful. Beyond the headline itself, the picture as well adds to it.
Okay, so I say we bench it. Let's see what it's up against. And I'd say we go with the Star. Okay. Broke UONKU 4 billion shillings of staff cash.
It's like everything education related gets worse by the day.
I know, I'm really distressed. Because you begin with first, students are failing. Next, there are too many courses in the universities. We need to merge them. We're going to scrap courses. Then you add on that, even if I were to scrape by as a student and finally get the right grade and have enough people apply for the same course as me, I will get to a university and it will be shut down because it's broke. Rescue me.
I mean, I'm done with school, and even this is terrifying for me. So I can only imagine what the students and parents are going through.
Me as a parent, I'm wondering, do we have a 20-year plan for you and okay?
You know, it gets crazy when you have national universities, public universities, taking loans, what are they, overdrafts, so that they pay their workers, right? And maybe there is a structural problem, there's a systemic problem, and that problem is we have vice chancellors who run the universities, but then
chancellors,
and then you probably have a veterinary surgeon as a CEO of the university. My point is this. I think the business side of universities has been ignored. And as you rightly said last time, we are thinking more about regulation than the business side. Let me put it this way. Melbourne, Australia, second largest sector of Melbourne, right, is education. When you go to all the prospectors of the universities, you don't see Muzungu faces. You see Asians and Sudanese faces. It is because they are subliminally telling you, come and learn here. Our university degrees are the best and everything. So I'm asking myself, because we do have such a profitable opportunity in this country to attract the region, and we are a
and
hub,
we've said that,
right?
yes.
Why can't we focus more on the business side of running
Yes,
universities?
and I think part of that problem is the high investment in brick and mortar.
That is correct.
All these universities go and build these grand campuses,
Yeah.
and then they increase the threshold for getting into the university, so they get very few applicants.
Yes.
Instead, this is at the expense of quality education.
Yeah.
That's
It makes
true.
no sense.
That's true. And also, like you've rightfully said, so one, we have people who are not essentially, I don't know if I could call it gifted in the practice of business.
Yes.
James Wangi may not be a professor of anything, but
Absolutely.
he's an excellent businessman.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now that's what you need to run the business side of a university,
Yeah.
while you have the professors focus on the academic side of the university.
Definitely.
Yes.
Then you'll
Yeah.
be able to have
Yeah.
what you have in Melbourne replicated,
Yes.
where it not only is attractive to other students because of quality,
Absolutely.
but
Yes.
it is constructive to our economy and
Yes.
contributes to it,
Yes.
and they are viable concerns.
Absolutely.
So then can we toss this?
Yes.
Because I'm
Yeah.
done with education, it's too much.
Yeah, very true.
RUTO,
Finally.
Uhuru, MPs, fight the neutrals.
I think they are spoiling for a fight. Standard is saying fight, fight, fight. and you know who the owner of this newspaper is?
Okay, what's your point?
I mean, it is in the benefit of the Standard to see a rift in Jubilee.
But does the rift exist?
It probably
Yes.
does.
So it's not creating a false narrative.
It probably
it's-
does.
And it would make sense, because if you are polarized, Jubilee is polarized on two ends, then whoever is in the middle is caught in a fight.
Yeah. My question here is, how will this end? Will people start impeaching each other?
What a jump.
Just toss the headline,
Yeah, no, I'm
please.
not.
And that leaves the Daily Nation. I guess
Yes.
that makes it our winning headline. And it is a good headline.
I think it's a fantastic headline. I would agree. Winning headline.
I love it.
Hey, all right.
On to our next segment, the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country.
Yeah.
And just like the headlines, we have a three-part criteria that we use to break them down for you. We ask ourselves two questions.
Yeah.
Is the cartoon humorous or is it dry?
Yes.
Is the cartoon satirical or is it pessimistic?
Yeah.
And finally, is the cartoon effective or just plain lazy?
Yes.
The star.
The
Ozone.
star. Finally, the...
You know, this feels like your pet project.
No, I have been defending Waitito. Although he looked shell-shocked at the Senate committee.
Rightfully so.
Rightfully so. And I
It was
mean,
within good reason,
he's
yeah.
been vindicated. The man is not guilty. And this thing of doing mob justice on people that are not guilty, I think, is a favorite pastime of
But I
parents.
still want to ask this question, right? In the
Yes.
cartoon, we see that Ozone is suggesting that the IFMIS
IFMIS. Yeah.
is shielding Waititu from the wrongs that he is,
Yes.
or rather he had been
The rain is
suggesting.
still beating him,
Exactly.
as we say in our
So
feminisms.
is Ozone suggesting that this is just another excuse?
And
Is
Also,
IFMIS
it's
just
possible.
is IFMIS a convenient
Possible. You know why I say
solution
that?
for his problems?
Yesterday it started raining, and this IFMIS that's shielding him is a piece of paper that is wet.
Yes.
How long and how
It's-
strong?
long is that
that is
gonna
the point.
last?
It is just a matter of time before they
this?
go back for Waitito.
Yeah.
Say, now you're okay, but we are still studying you. And the person who's holding the IFMIS paper is Treasury.
Yeah.
So Treasury is going to come back and revisit him, because as you can see, that paper is beginning to show the holes.
Yes, that's true. Yeah.
So the
I think yeah, smart cartoon,
that
but
Smart
he
cartoon,
has,
but
I need Ozone to stop writing everything. He doesn't need to be so literal. Are we tossing?
Toss it.
Tossing.
this I like. And before I say it, let's describe it.
Describe.
All right. You have a caricature of a bull with a face of CS Magoha. And he is entering a China shop. And in the China shop, there is a beautiful placed items, vases, right? The one is new curriculum, PhDs, numerous universities. And he's knocking each and every one of them. And he says, I don't know how to tiptoe.
Yeah, he's a bull in a china shop.
Yeah,
So-
and I'm asking, why do you have, if you have to be seen to be so, to be working, does being aggressive part of the ingredients of being working? Because he is CS of the largest ministry,
Yeah.
right? He's
Okay.
he's a CS of the largest ministry. Now, things were in place, and I said before, there is a profitable opportunity to take education sector far beyond our borders. Why are you fighting the things that could possibly spur us
I think one of our producers gave this a very apt description.
Yeah.
Magoha, as the bull in this china shop, has an owner. Bulls usually have owners that come for them and keep them.
And that's why
and his owner, Annabelle.
That's why he has a kengele over here.
Annabelle, that he's leading. So you can't have two. In fact, first let's go there.
Yes.
You know, usually the lead bull is the one that has the bell because he leads all the other, all the cows and the other animals. So you can't have two bulls in parliament.
Yes.
You're setting us up for, as Prof said, a war cabinet. Because they'll just be fighting each other and they'll be looking for things to look to, and they'll just be competing.
Absolutely.
But the second thing that I wanted to say is that, and our producer said this, that we have anyone who comes into high office, a CS, does management by revelations. Look what I found. There's corruption in my department. Look what I found. There's this problem in my department. And what we need to start doing is stop having these negative sanctions. He's destroying everything. You see, China is both beautiful, fragile, and expensive.
Oh, yes.
So our education system is a very fragile thing that we need to grow our economy, to grow our students. And it's very precious. So the boy in the china shop is wasting this precious thing. So I think that we need to have positive sanctions.
No one else should speak. You have described it perfectly.
Cartoon. I like it.
Finally, the standard.
Bench it.
Say no more.
Say no more. Okay, Gado.
These I like.
Kipchoge versus time.
Kipchoge versus time.
All right.
I don't like it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a caricature of Kipchoge running beside a clock.
Beside a clock.
A timer.
A timer, yes.
Yeah. So I don't know whether you guys have watched the documentary by Nat Geo and Nike called Breaking 2. And it's Kipchoge trying to beat the 2-hour mark in a marathon.
Yes.
Right? And he just missed it in the documentary. I think by either 26 seconds or 26 milliseconds. I cannot really remember.
Yeah, which was just a small margin.
A small margin. But guys, the moment the man crossed the line, everybody was in shock that you can do a marathon in such a short time. But Kipchoge looked at the time and he was pissed off.
I mean, of course, this is his life's work. Right. But Ms. K, can you remind us of our criteria? Because I think we need to look at this
Is it humorous or is it dry? I find it exceedingly dry. Is it satirical or is it pessimistic? It's neither.
See, then you
and finally, is it effective?
No.
Or just plain lazy? Lazy. No offense, Gado, you are really good cartoonists. Yeah. Then that leaves the Daily Nation with our winning cartoon.
Yes, it does.
Okay. What is our final thought?
And now, our final thought. It is inspired by a book entitled The State in Africa, Politics of the Belly by Jean-Francois Bayard. I sound like a Frenchman, do I?
Yes, you do.
Right? And I've written a small summary of how I think, what I think this book is provoking.
Okay.
And allow me to read it.
By all means.
That the image of Africa that is war-torn, sickly, desolate, and isolated from the world is wrong, right? That even before independence, African states were participants in colonization, and a certain elite class benefited from the template of the European model of the nation state.
That's your own summary. I like that.
That's my own summary.
You read the book today. All right, welcome.
Every day.
Take your seat at the table.
Every day. Who wants to chime in now?
All right, so
TJ.
Before I give the summary, I want to read another quote, but it is not my summary, it is a summary from someone else.
Okay. Wow,
so
today's the day of quotes.
Yes,
go for it.
So a professor at the University of Washington, he summarizes the book as follows. The politics of the belly points to the propensity of politicians to hoard and greedily consume resources in things and people. In addition to highlighting the significance of idioms of eating and the belly to African conceptions of power, Bayard's analysis insists on the importance of vertical relationships, those between social unequals such as patrons or clients, to understand African political history. So it's a mouthful, so I will break it down further, kindly. So when he talks about politics of the belly, it is a metaphor for the form of governance that arose across Africa after decolonization. So he refers to it as political sins. But unlike the typical conversation where we say these sins are negative, he actually says that they are appropriate, that they are effective, and that they are the most successful method for having Africa to be successful itself.
Yes.
Wow.
So he rejects the assumption
Yeah.
Yes.
of the African otherness. Ways that we've seen this in, for example, The Heart of Darkness, that the stereotypes of famine, civil war, corruption, and so on.
Right.
And he invites the reader to see that African politics is just like the politics of everywhere else. The West is just as bad as we are.
Yeah.
And so when he suggests that kinship in Africa, family, ethnic connections,
Right.
those have always been an aspect of African reality,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So where a Westerner might view that and see nepotism and favoritism, he says that this is just a part of the
Our
African
life.
political experience. It is what it is, and that's how we are.
Cynical, but I love it.
Yeah.
I have to contrast this against the book we read yesterday. So yesterday we read Black Man's Burden
Yeah.
by Basil Davidson.
Yes.
And in Basil Davidson's book, he gave an analogy of Africa as having, or pre-colonial Africa,
Yeah.
as having its own well-established and properly running political structures, social structures,
Yeah.
social systems of
Yes, we have
remedy,
institutions,
and private entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And he said that what colonization did was that it was a violent interruption
Yeah.
to Africa's own indigenous and unique development.
Right.
And that if Africa, perhaps, his
Yeah.
argument pushes it, that if perhaps Africa had been left to its own devices, Africa would have come to some modicum or level of development that would have mirrored Western development.
Yes.
Yeah.
However, Baya, on the other hand, says that Africa, and this is your argument that he rejects otherness, because the West looks at Africa as this exotic, horrible place,
Yes.
an exotic anomaly,
Yes.
where you have a rampant corruption
Yes.
in Nigeria, in
Yeah.
Kenya,
Yeah.
everywhere. You
Yeah.
have rampant corruption, you
Yeah.
have famine, you have drought, you
Yeah.
have failed democracy.
You have night
And he
planners.
says, leave the witchcraft out of this, but he says
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
those things were inherent to Africa. They
Okay.
were not brought upon us by the West.
Yes.
And therefore, the West should leave us and understand that this is how we are.
Yeah.
I don't know. And then he also says, and I have to question this,
Yeah.
he says
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
Africans were not passive participants
Yeah.
in what happened to them or
Yes.
to the interaction that they had with the Europeans.
They were active.
It was dialogical, so like a dialogue.
We
So
call them.
you
Yeah.
do, I
Yeah.
do, you do. I
Yeah.
listen actively and I participate. So he says, for instance, slavery. That the Europeans did not compel
Yeah.
or compel any African leader
Yes.
to sell their people.
Yeah.
What they had, in fact, he says that they had no means, whether economic or military, to compel them. The decision to sell the slaves was voluntary,
Yeah.
and it was made by African leaders.
Market forces.
So,
no.
on one hand, yes, it is fact that we did sell our slaves. We did sell the
Did
slaves.
everyone sell the
Not
slaves?
everyone did, but moreover, they did in fact have the military capacity to compel us.
Even the
They
economic
did have
capacity
exactly, they
to
had both
compel
of
us.
that. So,
So I refuse this argument that, you know what, Africa has always been bad and horrible, and because it's always been bad and horrible, it will never be fixed. In fact, I think, this is your argument. You argue that it is human nature. It is the nature of the African to be corrupt. It is the nature of the African to be horrible. Therefore, do not ask why the head of the treasury is stealing. You put money in front of him, he can only but steal.
It is my argument. Nabado. Let me say it this way.
Yeah.
You see, Bayat, his name is Bayat.
Baya.
He says that a goat eats where it is tethered. And I sit down and I say, wow, maybe he is
your
right.
argument
Maybe he's
that
right.
Because you put me there, I will eat.
And what I did is I took a journey across Africa.
Okay.
I went to Kenya and I saw Jomo Kenyatta.
Okay.
I went to Malawi and I saw Kamuzu Banda. I went to
So
South
you-
Africa and I saw Ramaphosa.
Okay, apart from Ramaphosa, I think you're taking us back to independence.
Yes, and I went to Zimbabwe and I saw Mugabe. And I sat back and I said, there was a revolution without a revolution.
Okay.
That the leaders of the freedom fight, all right, did not collectivize, once we got independence, did not take the ideals of the freedom fighters, the leaders, the elite then.
Okay.
Okay? And I sit back and I ask myself, were they wrong? Let me put it this way. They were Western educated people.
Yes.
When you had the Koinanges and the Kenyattas and the Mugabe speak, they spoke like they just had met the Queen the day before. They spoke very, very well.
Okay.
And they were educated to see that there were other modes of production. And they said, maybe rightly or wrongly so, they will fence themselves and their modes of production. They will accumulate as much as they can because they knew the African state, yes, as it was constructed by the Muzungu, would need to compete with the global north, right? And competing with the global north meant that if you give the freedom fighters land, they would do smallholder farming.
Okay,
they
so
will, just wait. They will grow spinach and groundnuts and for their own subsistence, right? And they would not be thinking of the global picture. So my question is, the successor class of the Mugabes and the Kenyattas and the Ramaphosas, could they have been right?
In doing what? Because that's what I want to take you back
in accumulating.
So did you say that they accumulated and were aligned to the interests of their colonial masters, or did you say that they were pro-Africa and pro our divergence from that thinking the global north?
You see, the reason they're called a successor class is because they
I'm
answering a question. The reason they're called a successor class is because they inherited the template of the European nation, what's it called? Nation state. Nation state.
Okay, so now, let me ground this for a moment.
Yes.
Because the argument that Bayar makes is that we should, this politics of the belly, we should embrace it because that is who we are. Yes. And he says that that is an effective way to make Africa succeed.
Yes.
So are you suggesting that those successors you speak of
embrace the politics of the belly,
yes,
and we should reject it?
No, we should.
Or embraced it to the benefit of their nations.
I'm making a very dangerous argument. What I'm saying is this, that the ideals of the Mau Mau and the freedom fighters, it was right not to have taken them. It was right to have taken the big pieces of land for themselves in order to perpetuate advancement, because they knew.
So you agree with the thesis of this book?
I agree with it. And I know it's dangerous, but I agree with it.
All right. But then again, one of the biggest critiques of this book is that it's very monolithic in its assessment of Africa.
It's even condescending.
I thought you agreed with him.
Yeah, I agree with it.
Okay. So when he speaks about this, he was a Cameroonian, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the context that he gives is based in Francophone Africa and West Africa.
Yes.
I don't think it necessarily applies to Africa as a whole, or even like right now as we sit, to East Africa or Kenya.
I agree completely.
So I don't think that your crazy idea is smart.
It's your opinion.
Yes, it is.
This is the fifth state winning headlines. Our winning cartoon was from the Daily Nation, and our headline is from the Daily Nation. Our winning headline is from the Daily Nation. Goats should not eat where they're tethered, especially if those goats are our politicians.
I'm not saying they should. I'm just saying that's how we are constructed.
This is the winning headline. See you tomorrow.